This is Unit 12, Crime and its Effects on Societies, Part 2. In this video we'll be tackling criteria P4, describe the effects a crime has on the communities and the individuals. P5, identify approaches used by the public services to reduce crime and disorder and antisocial behaviour. P6, explain how public services and third sector organisations support witnesses and victims of crime. M2, analyse the effects of crime on communities and individuals. M3, analyse how the strategies used by the local community, public services work to reduce crime, disorder and antisocial behaviour. And finally, D2, evaluate a local public service initiatives designed to address crime and its impact on the community. Starting off with P4, describe the effects crime has on communities. Has anyone got any ideas on this?
Yes. The effects of crime on the community and the individual can be described as the broken window. If a couple of windows on a building, for example, are broken, vandals may carry on smashing more windows in, and which may lead to them eventually entering the building and squatting. This is a very good example on a small crime, such as an assault on someone on a night out, could end up leading to a gang war or someone getting stabbed in the local community. According to a lot of official statistics, societies realised the crime increase has quickly risen throughout the community, even though in 2010, which was not very long ago, it was the lowest it's ever been in 30 years. One problem the community has is the media enlarges the crime, or a crime, so much as so they can interpret in any way they want and capture the interest of the reader quickly. This can affect the community status in a town. For example, Leeds and Oxford has a known reputation for violent crime and drug-related crimes. P5 is identify approaches used by public services to reduce crime, disorder and antisocial behaviour. Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that was a very good bit there. So I'm just going to look into the identifying some approaches that the public services, in particular the police, use to tackle stuff like crime, disorder, antisocial behaviour around the community areas. So one of their strategies is intelligence-led policing. So intelligence-led policing is where they use their intelligence to target well-known groups of offenders to try and stop them. So for instance, in an area, say drug dealing, that in an area there's a well-known lot of drug dealers in the area. So they will use intelligence on what they know about the group, who they are, who their associates are, where their drugs are, where the money is, what time of day they deal, and then they can set up a raid, a sting, and catch them in the act. By doing this, it's a lot easier to prosecute them in court as they catch them doing the crime.
Can I just ask a question?
You can indeed, Jimmy.
What's their intelligence?
Intelligence comes from all sorts of different places, such as informants. So these are people who have local sources with detectives, police. That half of them can be sort of ex-cons that are used to that area. They speak to the police, they give them tip-offs, they tell them that a large stash of drugs are on their way in or something. Other sources, Cctv cameras. Other sources could be stuff that they're seeing on the social media. So I'm a big drug dealer, posted on Facebook, yeah, big stash coming in, come get me, yeah. So I'm just going to look into how they reduce disorder really. So one of the ways they reduce disorder is by having safer communities through multi-agencies partnerships. So this one in particular, the multi-agency partnerships, is a way of tackling safeguarding issues. So these are where schools work in partnerships with social services and the police to help keep their pupils safer from any kind of abuse in or outside of school. Thank you. In this sort of position, this is where a teacher could possibly notice some sort of bruising or any kind of signs that abuse is happening outside of school on one of their pupils. Before the teacher does anything silly, challenges the parents on it, the teacher firstly has to report it through their safeguarding channels. That then goes through to social services, where social services will build an investigation on them, see whether the child is in any threat. Once a notable threat has been spotted, identified, they will contact the police. The police will then investigate their end and put a stop on it, whether that be the child gets taken away from the house, put in safety. This is a good way, as there's not a lot of police, let's say, in this area, and it takes a lot of strain off them, and it allows the communities and the agencies to work together, get out the information in advance ready for the police. The police then take it on, do the deed. Got a couple more. We've got the neighbourhood policing, which we know a lot about, the old neighbourhood policing units. So these are normally in areas that are affected by crime highly, or if not, they're just in general local neighbourhooding areas, where all the local residents work together to keep an eye out on each other's homes, properties, cars, when they're either away, at work or holiday. They basically will keep an eye out over their properties whilst they're away. If there's something seems a bit dodgy, someone acting suspicious around their house, they'll contact the police straight away. A lot of these areas where they have this in place have signs up around the area, neighbourhood policing area in place. These tend to be there as a bit of a deterrent for a group of burglars who go around those areas and see those signs. It does actually put them off a bit.
It's a bit like, when you see a house that says beware of the dog, and they actually haven't got a dog.
Correct. It's a smart fake deterrent that is used to reduce crime. And then one more is the CCTV cameras. So these are put up all around areas potentially of high crime rates, or if not, just around normal areas that aren't too badly affected. These are quite a deterrent. Some people that have been affected by crime even put fake cameras at their driveways. So they even put a fake camera with a sticker, beware CCTV.
So it's just a deterrent.
It is a deterrent, yeah. As burglars walk past, they spot that and it stops them from going anywhere near it. They don't even look into it as they believe that they are being filmed, when in fact they're not. So as simple as just putting a fake camera up is still quite a good deterrent on reducing crime and disorder in that sort of area. So we're just going to look into P6 now. Again, let's explain how public and third sector organisations support witnesses of crime. Anyone got any ideas on that one?
I think I'll take it next. Thank you. So let's establish that a victim is someone who's been affected by crime. The witness is someone who has seen crime or event happen. There are many third-party organisations that are specifically made to support witnesses and victims, such as Victim Support and the Witness Service. Victim Support is a registered charity which focuses on helping victims with emotional support and tasks such as insurance and compensation claims. This organisation receives support from the police by referring victims to them, and it gets funding from central government. So it's a pretty big organisation. It just kind of helps out and takes stress off the police to sort victims out, and also helps them out because obviously they're vulnerable people now because they've been affected, so they can help. In a Witness Service, it's an organisation that makes sure the process witnesses go through to give evidence in court as comfortable as possible and safe. Because obviously witnesses get threats from the defendants or the
criminals, yes, stop them from.
And then also they get kind of deterred to go there, don't want to go there because they'll show their face on like kind of grass them up. Obviously it's comfortable, it's also a complicated process and need help. So they try and make it as easy as comfortable as possible to help them. This organisation is parented by charity Victim Support, and there is a witness service in every Crown Court in England and Wales also to help out, so they're always there. That is basically P6 really. Let's go on to M2, analyse the effects of crime in communities and individuals. Anyone want to do this?
I'll do that one. So crime can have major effects on individuals and communities as a whole. For instance, when a house is burgled, it's not about what's been stolen, it's the anxiety of knowing that strangers have broken into your home when you're asleep. This can have massive effects on mental health. In some cases this has happened, people go to sleep with weapons at night in fear of this happening again. The effects of crime can have major consequences on communities, so it can make everyone really anxious.
What kind of weapons would they take?
You can sleep with a knife or,
Baseball bat or something.
baseball bat. People, I think, when something's been burgled or something happens in a community, everyone sort of loses it a little bit.
Sorry, just add to that quickly. I don't know if you remember the TV advert that was out not too long ago. It was about a family house that had been burgled.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the words exactly, but it was saying about it's not about the possessions that are taken, it's about the fault of the actual people being in your
It's
house.
what's left.
I think
Yeah.
the scene is they came into their home and it had been ransacked,
Yeah.
and it wasn't the fact that they'd been burgled, it was the fact that people had been in their home or they had been there, and it sort of really did leave them on edge, thinking that people are breaking into their homes, seeing their family pictures.
It's the worst when it's a family as well, because everyone always thinks what happens if I'd been at home at that time.
Yeah,
sort of
what
thing.
happened if
like,
my kid had been at home on their own or something?
It
Exactly.
does make everyone more.
It really does affect the community massively.
It's emotional as well, it's mental as well.
So,
It's a support there.
Yeah. Well, another example is if you live in a violent area with like high crime rate, members of the community can become really, really like paranoid. So, you know, for example, if you're living like in Piccadilly in Manchester, which is like it's quite a nice place, but it's got a bad reputation for drugs and stuff. For drugs and stuff, there'll be people who are doing the drugs and stuff, and they're not paranoid, but they could be like a little old couple who sat there, who don't do any drugs, who was just in the stereotype of that, and they're going to be sat there thinking like, I'm somewhere where everything goes wrong. So it definitely does affect a community when things go wrong.
Elderly as well, they're vulnerable, so
Yeah,
you can't do anything
exactly.
about it like a young person could.
Exactly, it's really important. And especially in parts of London at the moment, there's been a massive increase in knife crime. And this is impacting people massively. You know, parents are not wanting to send their children to school after what's been going on. And they're unable to feel like they can live their daily lives. So even going to the shop or something, or picking up the kids from school, they don't want to do that because it's becoming so dangerous because of the gang crime. So even if it's just like a group of individuals who are going off path, it affects the community so much. Another example is like the stereotype. For example, you know, like Blackbird Leys in Oxford, everyone like knows that it's like the dodgy part of Oxford, and you know, you don't want to go to Blackbird Leys, but you know, truth be told, there are some people who live there who are a bit dodgy and might do drugs, but there's also a massive side of that community that aren't dodgy and who are just completely normal people and families who live there, and they are stereotyped because of, you know, because it's a high crime rate, everyone in that community is dodgy when actually they're not at all.
Stereotype by their place.
Yeah, exactly, and it's horrible. You know, many people in that estate are just normal people, but they can't afford, you know, Blackbird Leys is a very cheap place to live because of the crime rate. It's not like you can live in Headington or somewhere where it's like, well, you know, more expensive. So the people who haven't got a lot of money and have to live in Oxford will end up living in those communities because of the crime rate. No one wants to live there, but I just think it's very unfair that people are stereotyped against because there's a crime rate in that area.
It's like that everywhere, even Smith's Estate in Whitney. That's nothing compared to Blackbird Leys.
Yeah.
But everywhere you go, if you live in an area that's affected by high crime rate,
in each town which is dodgy.
Yeah.
there is.
Yeah, and people, it does like, and people, that does really affect individuals and communities.
Yeah.
You know, communities argue and get annoyed and get upset, and that's why like communities get like drifted apart and things. And yeah, I think it does really affect.
There's a big thing on the Facebook post of the Spotted Whitney on the group chat. Whenever someone puts on their police car in Smith's Estate, what's going on? You always get people commenting there going, it's benefit payday for the single parents, so they're in Tesco's getting their booze ready for the month or stuff like that. And then you do actually get a lot of people commenting on that, saying, you know, that's bang out of order, extremely rude. When in all fairness, it is. That's just how it is, you know. People get stereotyped for where they live.
Yeah. Just because of that post.
Going back to your point about London, there was a video on BBC News. I don't know if you saw it. Some guy nearly knocked a cyclist off, and he turned around with a called a zombie knife, which is about that big, and he attacked the driver. Well, in broad daylight, there was a dash cam of the driver, and it's quite scary to think this just in London. This guy nearly got knocked off his bike and retaliated with a 24-inch blade knife
that you can easily conceal.
Lots of
easily
knife
see
crime,
the amount of knife crime.
Yeah, you can easily conceal them. You can easily get them. You can go to the supermarket and get them.
It's too easy, I think.
But then you can't do anything about it.
Like, I'm not just going to say young people.
Ban you from buying knives.
But
that's the thing.
it's so easy to buy. Like, I could go into like Sainsbury's and then just go in and just be like, I'm going to buy a knife now because someone's annoyed me. Like, obviously, I'm not going to do that, but there's people out there who are unstable and who grow up in unstable households, and they are likely to turn to crime because, you know, I'm not saying guns are really easy to buy, but, you know, you can buy drugs easily, you can buy weapons easily, like, it's so easy to go on the wrong path.
Yeah, that's good. Going on to M3 now. So that one is strategies used by the public services to reduce crime in communities. Has anyone got any ideas on this one?
I think I might.
Oh yeah.
Possibly. So, for the strategies used by the public services to reduce crime in communities, there's like loads of different ways that the police are able to do it. Most of the time it's neighbourhood watch, which we touched upon earlier. You also get curfews for younger people, house arrest as well. House arrest and the curfews for young people is really good for like the youth of the community because they're like less influenced to
Is that
cause
when you get
trouble.
like a little ankle bracelet?
I don't know if they do ankle
House
bracelets.
I swear, like,
Is it,
they
do they
have
actually
like a,
give you ankle
They
bracelets for house
they
arrest?
tag
They tag
you.
you,
Tags.
so you can't go really
Sort of
far
burning.
away.
yeah, it's like you get a limit of how, and you get like a curfew on it. So if you're like outside a certain location,
After like
Yeah.
10 o'clock,
it's like
you'll get in trouble.
yeah,
I think
someone
it is
comes
good
down.
though.
Yeah, it's a good deterrent.
It's where you got to be home by like between the hours of 7 p.m. and 7 a.m.
When they've
Yeah.
already committed like petty crimes, I think it will help them not committing any more serious crimes. I think it's really
Yeah, that's what it's there for. It just prevents them from like causing trouble and like causing more crime, as well as like it stops them from being like repeat offenders, like you just said. Like that if that happens, then they're not going to want to do it again.
Yeah.
That's one of the strategies. Another one that like is used quite often, I think, is leaflets. Police doing leaflets, like for example, like car theft. If there's been like an increased amount of like car theft in your area, sometimes you get like a little leaflet through your door via the police, and it'll just say how to protect your car,
Telling us
and
to get
like
extra phone.
and like make sure your insurance is sorted out and everything like that, and then it tells you that it's illegal to not have insurance.
The good thing with that is that they can do that with everything, rather than not just car theft. Everything, robberies, knife crime in London. You know.
Yeah, it is. It's so diverse, which is why leaflets are like really popular to be used for shit like that or stuff like that. Got a bit carried away. But like with the leaflets, if you post it through like someone's door and it's got the stuff on it about like the car theft and that, it at the end of the day, if you're a criminal and you're living within that community and you're the person that's committing the car theft, and then suddenly you get a leaflet through your door telling you like to be more safe, set up cameras and everything, you're going to start moving to a different area to do different crime, because at the end of the day you're not going to want to be in the middle of that when everyone's now on edge and like are setting up cameras and stuff, because no one wants their car to like get stolen or damaged or stuff like that. Patrols as well. I think police patrols are really important, especially for like the vulnerable people of like communities. So like for people that have been assaulted before, it really like you know, being burgled does, it really affects them. No one wants to go out then. You feel paranoid when you go out. You're always watching your back. It's not a nice feeling, basically. And with police patrols, if you're patrolling an area where you know there's been like, you know, some vulnerable people have been attacked, or there's been like a rise in assaults in a certain area, if you're patrolling that area, the vulnerable people are going to be feeling more safe to come out of their house, like especially the elderly, disabled people that don't come out very often. Like they're going to feel like much more at home if the police are there to help deter the crime away, because no one will want to assault anyone if the police are there, sort of thing. And then, you know, if you've got daily patrol routes going on in a certain area that you know, a specific area, like it's just going to stop the crime completely, in my personal opinion anyways.
I think one thing we could touch on as well is the police have strategies like going to schools and doing assemblies to deter or stop any people turning to crime and doing crime before it actually happens.
That's the sort of prevent idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
They want to prevent the crime from happening before it's even happening.
Yeah.
So they're going to the schools, possibly in areas where it is quite highly affected.
Yeah.
You know, it's stuff that they see most days, they're used to it. So they go to these schools and they talk to them about, you know, the consequences of drugs, consequences of stabbings, knife crime, and all the other different sort of offences that could be going on.
Just think about how many assemblies we actually had at school.
Drugs.
We had like at least 3 a year.
Yeah,
Because they want to like scare us.
Yeah, they
I
want to
think,
drill it into you.
before we go
It's
into
bad.
crime.
What happens to you if you take drugs? What happens
Or
if
you drive
call
safe.
one
Do you remember
police?
that drive safe and
Yeah.
stay alive thing? If you drive like an idiot.
Drive on your phone.
It's all about stopping you before you
Drink
actually do it.
Yeah, which is a really good use of police time and sort of money, I think. Trying to stop it before it even
Yeah, it's effective.
before it happens.
Should we move on to the last bit, D?
Yeah, so D2, isn't it? We're now going to look at evaluating local public service initiatives designed to address crime and its impact on community.
I think I'll start this one.
Yeah, go for
Yeah.
it.
So one initiative we have is Neighbourhood Watch. This is a public service initiative all around the UK set up to bring together people and communities to make the area safer. Neighbourhood Watch looks out for each other and supports other organisations in public service and the public service such as the police by reporting suspicious activity, sharing information and recent crimes, checking on vulnerable people and discussing concerns with the community. So that's like the general overview of what they do.
Some people find neighbourhood, like I think some people our age find neighbourhood quite funny. We think, oh, it's like the old little biddies all together, like they're having like, it's this one bit of a gossip sesh. But I actually think that Neighbourhood Watch has probably prevented so many like crimes and stuff because they've all got each other's back.
I think petty crime especially.
Yeah.
So basically, to evaluate on this, I think Neighbourhood Watch is like a very good initiative, as it makes the community feel safer. They know what's going on. Crime gets reduced or deterred, and it supports vulnerable people, and the community is aware of what's going on.
With Neighbourhood Watch, when you think about it, they don't actually do a lot. They do the
Look out,
smallest amount of work. They could just literally be walking from their home to the shop, and the smallest thing, if they see something that looks dodgy, they'll report it. Anyone could do that. You haven't got to be in the Neighbourhood Watch to report something that looks suspicious.
Yeah.
It's just some people see it nowadays and go, oh,
I think it's because it's like quite a recognisable group.
Yeah, it's a brilliant thing. They don't
Yeah.
do a lot, yet they're so effective in the community.
Yeah.
It's like what's on here. However, there are some negatives to Neighbourhood Watch, such as not have a large presence in the community. So they're there. Because down my street there's a sign saying you are being watched by Neighbourhood Watch, but I've never seen anyone.
In a lot of
doing
housing
it.
areas, there are stickers all around. I think they're all around my road, and it is a bit of a deterrent for burglars.
However, it's just a sticker, and I don't see that anything else happening.
No.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, if there's a house and it just has a Neighbourhood Watch sticker, but there's no like cameras, if they come at 4 o'clock in the morning, like just because the people over the road are like keeping watch, it doesn't just because they've got a sticker doesn't mean they're not going to get burgled.
But then
No,
I think,
100%.
Yeah,
there's
there's still a chance.
is that, especially down my road, some guy's bike got nicked, and it had a Neighbourhood Watch sticker on the lamppost as you were coming in. So obviously it should be an area, but it got taken away. It
Yeah.
got stolen. So obviously they say they're there, but you don't see the presence. You don't see anyone actively.
At the end of the day, they're not like super people.
No.
The thing on
They're
that
just like
is they're just people living in the area looking out for crime. They're all going to be asleep at some time.
Yeah.
They're not going to be able to stop someone's house getting burgled.
It's
if
not
they're
like
asleep at 4
thing is, I
o'clock in
think
the
they
morning.
want to give off the impression that they're like patrolling the streets, but at the end of the day, they're not. Like I think it's a good cause, and I think it can help with people's mental health and anxiety.
Yeah.
And I think it can, ease
People who have been
people.
burgled
Yeah.
before in the past, they come together as a group,
Yeah,
talk about
I
their...
can definitely see positives.
Yeah.
But there are
but I
like
see a lot of negatives
bit
that can be
far-fetched.
Same.
somewhat fixed easily.
yeah.
Like just having one like a spokesperson for the community to say what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, because I don't. They might have one, but I don't even know because, as I said, they haven't got very big presence. And as I put, some people don't even know there is one in their community.
It is a bit of a deterrent for antisocial disorder behaviour and petty crime during the daytime,
Yeah.
but it's not going to stop some of the bigger crimes, burglaries overnight, is it?
No.
I think like
So a bit
big time
more detail.
burglars, like 30-year-olds, whatever. But I think people like 15, 14 who are doing petty
Yeah.
crimes, I think it helps. But
It does.
I remember when I was little, and then everyone was speaking about Neighbourhood Watch, and everyone would laugh and think it was a bit funny. So I think if someone who's quite young and immature sees it, they're not going to care. But I think when someone's a bit older and a bit mature,
I think the opposite. I think when you're younger and you haven't committed that much crime,
Yeah, but
if I
some
saw
people
if I saw one of those Neighbourhood Watch signs and I was like committing a crime, I'd probably like bottle out or whatever I was gonna do.
Yeah.
Do you think
Because
you
you get nervous, you get scared when
You
you're like.
think you're being watched.
Yeah, you'll think you're being watched. Like you'll see one of those stickers, but like for older people, obviously people that have been like, you know,
A bit like
living in
they're not
communities.
actually
Yeah, they're not actually
Live
watching.
their
But if
whole
you
lives,
see it and
yeah.
you're a kid, you take things literally. So neighbourhood watch, you'll think then
Someone's
you'll
watching
walk
you.
down the street and you'll think at least one person in one of these houses is watching me, and I'm about to do a crime. I can't do it. And I think that's a good deterrent for young people, but I think there needs to be something put in place for people that are older and have
I
committed
think
more
that kind
crimes.
of sums it up.
Yeah.
Like younger people, they see stickers and they think they're being watched. However, older people, they see stickers and they're still committing the crime because no one's
They
yeah.
realise what it actually is.
It's a bit of a joke.
I think the younger group, they don't actually realise what neighbourhood watch is. They genuinely think it's just people sat in their homes all day looking out the windows. Whereas
They might have
it's,
cameras.
it's not, you know. It's a
So
lot more-
basically, neighbourhood watch also don't have power.
no,
Like
true.
they can't
Can't go out and
arrest
arrest.
you.
Can't do anything,
They
can
can,
I mean, citizens arrest. That's
they can probably like tell you, oh, don't do that, or they can phone the police. That's about it.
When you're thinking what sort of people are in the neighbourhood watch, they're going to be quite elderly residents that have more than likely lived there their whole lives. If you're outside, if you're looking out your window one day and you see someone spray painting a wall or something, they're not going to go out their house and chase them, are they?
They might do if they're a bit of an
Again, like you say, all they can do is report it.
That's all. Yeah, and the thing is, anyone can report.
Yeah, and they
Anyone
might have
can.
already committed the crime. They're not going to
Exactly.
stop the crime
No,
from happening.
they can't stop it.
They could be
And, yeah.
smashing off someone's window and they're not going to stop it. They're just
No.
going to report them.
Exactly, and you have neighbourhood watch to report it. However, anyone can
Who's
report
gonna stop them?
Yeah.
Everyone can
Any-
report them.
anyone
Who's
can
going to be there
report
to catch them? Especially how low we are in police at the moment.
Another
It's
negative I put down, I think you've already said, is people feel like they're constantly being watched and judged. So you could literally just be walking down the street and people that you could think you're being looked at like you've done something wrong. Especially with kind of our age group, if we're out late and then people would look at us and think that we're up to something bad. Even
Yeah.
though
It's-
around
it's like
trying to
common-
find friends.
It's like
Because
common
it's a
fear thing. It's
stereotype.
like when you walk into a shop and you don't buy anything and you walk out.
And they
Does
will
Does anyone ever
Yeah.
think like, oh,
I hate that.
please don't ever think I've stolen anything?
Yeah.
Like I haven't, but there's nothing in it that I came for. And you sort of walk out and you can see eyes looking at
I
you
feel
because
that,
you're
yeah.
like young,
Yeah.
and they automatically they just assume.
You've stolen something.
Yeah,
because
they
of your
just
age.
assume, or they look at you like, well, he's acting a bit dodgy. Do you know what I mean?
Typical stereotyping. What
Yeah.
we were saying earlier on.
Yeah, so I think just overall, I think even though we've done a lot more negatives than positives about neighbourhood watch, I think they are a good idea.
Yeah.
I just
What other
don't.
things are there except for the neighbourhood watch?
No, we just put evaluate a local public service initiative. So I've done that, and they've watched the local one.
Yeah,
I mean,
neighbourhood watch.
they support, and they go out to communities as well. They like our community. They go out and they help out. They also obviously they support the police by reporting crimes, so there's not a constant
I
presence.
wonder if the police think much of the neighbourhood watch, or they just.
Well, I
ignore
think
it.
I think they would, to
They
be honest,
do.
because I mean, at the end of the day,
They would
neighbourhood watch can provide like a lot of useful information. It's like
It's
when the
one of their
police.
sources.
It's like when the police when an accident's happened or something. Say like an accident happened on like a small road in like Whitney somewhere in the middle of a housing estate. If there was no neighbourhood watch and there was no one there that sort of like witnessed it at the time, like the police come forward, they ask the witnesses. If neighbourhood watch is in place, someone could step forward and say, well, actually, I was at home, I looked outside the window, I saw the man hit him, and then he drove off. You know what I mean?
It's all neighbourhood watch kind of sums up everything you've done. You've got smart policing because they're kind of their intent to support police get information from them. They use it's victim support as well because obviously they check on vulnerable people and go around the houses in the community to see if they're okay. So I think it's got a lot of good things. However, because they haven't got much power to actually do anything apart from like emotionally support them and go and see them, I think they've got a lot of things that they can't do, which obviously brings a lot of negatives they could watch, but it's not their fault because they can't just go around arresting whoever they want, can they?
Exactly. And that's why I think some people will sort of try and go against neighbourhood watch because they know they've got any power.
Yeah, so I think that's good. So I think that's part 2 done.
Yeah,
So
well
good.
done.
Anyone say anything else on that?
Thank you very much. Bye.
Enjoy.